What's up everybody, Emceemur here, and welcome back to another video. It is my pleasure to present to you a brand new retro gaming series right here on the Emceemur Show. Video game prices in the 90s and today. Now it popped back into my memory that somewhere I had a large stack of receipts from back in the 90s when I was collecting. Still collecting now, but I was collecting just as much back then. And boy, prices sure have changed on some of these things. There were things back then I bought as low as $1, and God knows what they're worth today. Some of it we know, some of it we haven't looked in a long time. Some of it we've never looked. I want you to walk down memory lane with me. We're going to look at some of these receipts, these invoices, see what was purchased back then and for how much, and we're going to see how much these games have appreciated in value over the years. Or have they? Now, I don't have receipts for every game I've ever purchased. I mean, I've been officially collecting since the late 80s, but we've got a lot of them to look at. And we're going to dig right in with the first one that I pulled out. And the first game on it is none other than Capcom's very own Street Fighter II Turbo. A game that needs no introduction. A game that I, and I'm sure many of you, put many a quarter into in the arcade and played not only on Super Nintendo but on Genesis as well. Logged many hours on this, and to this day I'm still a Street Fighter guy over Mortal Kombat. Don't know why, just am. It's my jam. This game clicks with me. Now the next game on the invoice is kind of a rare bird. Jaleco's Hammerlock Wrestling for the Super Nintendo. Now I can tell you that back in these days, anything that said wrestling or boxing, I owned it. I purchased it. Ring combat games were some of my favorite back then. Right on up next to RPGs. This was such a peculiar game though in the way that it handled and the way that it looked. It was so abstract. I don't even know how to describe it. You'd really just have to play it for yourself. But I don't know, I never really took to it. It seemed like there was a good game in there somewhere, but there were so many other wrestling options at the time, so many WWF games alone, that I didn't find myself going back to this one very much. But that said, I know that it's got to still be somewhat rare today. I've never seen one of these things scavenging in the world abroad and yard sailing and whatnot. Never seen another copy. And this wasn't cheap then. Let's go to the receipts. Alright, so taking a look at the receipt, this is from a Microplay video game store. It's a used game hut that was up the street from where we lived at the time. Let's go ahead and check out the date. You see we have 12/20/1996. Some old school stuff. It's been a minute. Let's look right here. We have Street Fighter II Turbo on the Super Nintendo, and then we have Hammerlock Wrestling, also on the Super Nintendo. So for Street Fighter II we gave $14.95, and you know what, it's hard to say what that did as far as value. That was not a rare game by any stretch of the imagination. Everybody had that, so seems high, but at the time it probably wasn't. This was $29.95 for Hammerlock, and you know that, again, I think it was uncommon then, I think it's uncommon now. It'll be really interesting to see what the numbers did where this game is concerned. Let's take a look at that now, shall we? The first game on this next invoice, James Buster Douglas Knockout Boxing for the Sega Genesis. Now this was kind of the first boxing game on the Genesis. It's one of the original black box collection games here. It was very much a rock'em sock'em robots kind of game, and this one is complete, in really decent shape. I've had this one and I've kept it all these years. You know, it's still kind of fun to go back and mess around with, but it was never really a good game. And there again, This is another one of those things where there were so many other great boxing options, especially by the time I acquired a copy of this, that this wasn't one that you came back to a whole lot. The other game on this invoice, a #1 arcade hit, Rampage on the NES. My God. Rampage I spent so much time on in the arcade, and when I was finally able to get a copy at home, which was for the Sega Master System for me at the time, I played it just as much, constantly wore it out. And later on, when I had an NES in the house, having a copy of this was great, because even though they were a man short on this roster, you know, Ralph the Wolf wasn't there, still a great game, still fun to play all the way through, no matter how repetitive it got. Rampage was always just fun and kind of calming to be in a strange sense, because after all, you are smashing buildings and devouring people as a large gorilla or a large lizard, but hey, what's wrong with that? Let's go now to the invoice and check out the numbers on these two games. So looking at this next invoice, now let's go ahead and check out the date. January 9th, 1997 was when we made this purchase. We see here James Buster Douglas Boxing, complete in box on the Sega Genesis. And we see Rampage for the NES. And over here we have the prices. $9.95 a piece I paid for these at that point. It's hard to say where the values went on these two games because they're not very rare, but it would be interesting to find out. Let's take a look and see how the values did over time. I hope that you enjoyed this look, this comparison at the pricing on these retro titles from back then and now. And we have a whole lot more to do, a whole lot more where this came from. And I look forward to producing it and bringing it all your way. I also look forward to the conversations we're going to have about these games, their values, whether or not you have them, whether or not you like them. Let me know in the comments below what you think about all that, and let me know what you think about this series in general. Did you enjoy this episode? Are you looking forward to the next episode already? Did you like the video? And if you like the video, I hope that you're going to leave a like on this video. And if you have not already done so, I hope that you're going to subscribe to the Emceemur Show. If you like watching videos about retro games, if you like watching retro live streams, if you like seeing day one content on games, unboxings of large collector's editions, and any aforementioned, all of which we do a lot of right here on the Emceemur Show. So glad to have you along for the ride. Again, let me know what you think of this series. Looking forward to your feedback and looking even more forward to bringing more of these episodes your way in the not too distant future. Emceemur signing off for now, and I will see each and every one of you again next time.